So, welcome everybody to the podcast. I'm very excited to introduce today's guests, Michael and Claire. And I had the great privilege of honor of having them in the studio on their Breathwork masterclass on Monday. And I'm excited to bring them on to talk about how they transform people's lives through the breath. So, welcome, Michael and Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's really lovely to be here. And we've only recently met you, Katie, so it's very exciting. Michael and I have moved to Wexford in the last couple of years, so we're putting feelers out and making connections with people like yourself. And it was so lovely that you invited us to the wellness studio. So little trip to New Ross last Monday night for our first dipping of the toe for some people, perhaps, in the work that we do in this breath work. So maybe Michael can say a little bit about who we are as professionals, and then we might do a little bit of breathing just to settle ourselves.
So Claire and I are transformational breath work coaches, or otherwise known as facilitators. We're also senior trainers, which allows us to run week-long workshops. And Claire is currently training to teach facilitators. Transformational breath is a really self-empowering, dynamic, transforming process, which allows people to move on in their lives, and which uses conscious connected breathing and basically enhances all aspects of a person's life, from the physical through the mental, emotional to the higher self or spiritual aspect of the being.
And it's interesting, Michael has dropped in a phrase, conscious connected breathing. And I guess it does exactly what it says, but maybe we can have a direct experience of what does that phrase actually mean? Because, and perhaps you had this realization as well, Katie, on Monday evening, that if we do relaxation breathing exercises in a yoga class or after a Pilates, or we're mindfulness people, or we do meditation, we recognize that we can be conscious of our breath. We can also be unconscious of our breath. And that's probably how we're breathing for most of the day. So from time to time, it's a really good support for the body to actually just stop for a moment and take a few conscious breaths. And the connected piece is, it could be to connect to yourself, but it's actually to do with the breathing, connecting the inhale to the exhale and connecting the exhale to the inhale. So very often people call it circular breathing, because you're not pausing. You're just moving from your inhale to your exhale and continuing in that flow. So maybe it would be nice for us all to just do a little bit of that, so we can arrive here into this chat and into the present moment, really connecting with ourselves. Yeah.
Lovely. Let's do it.
Yeah. So it's usually good if we're sitting comfortable but a little upright, maybe the feet on the ground, or your hands resting in your lap or on a cushion on your lap, and breathing in and out through the nose. The belly, as much as possible, is soft, because the diaphragm loves a soft belly, and then the diaphragm can move quite freely and help with a really effective full body breath. So very simply, just let the breath come in and let it fall away. And then kind of softly breathe in again and let it fall away. We'll do 5 more. Breathing in 5, falling away, and 4, falling away, and 3, falling away, and 2, falling away, and 1. Falling away. And just take a few more, guiding yourself. Maybe my pace was not your pace. And as Michael said, this way of breathing is self-empowering. So it's all about becoming self-responsible, self-empowered, self-accepting, self-aware, self-regulating. So it really hands us this beautiful resource, this beautiful tool that is simply our own breath, our own awareness of our breath. And the breath takes us into the present moment and the next now moment. So just do 3 more of these breaths and be curious in the last 1 or 2 if you could inhale a little more, like inflating a balloon just beyond what you thought was full, expanding our lung capacity, opening ourselves to receiving all the good that life has for us. And then very gently letting the body relax, the attention on the breath relax, relaxing the facial muscles. Sometimes we concentrate, relaxing the forehead, the eyelids and the eyes. And then we'll just take 1 breath in and let it out like a sigh, breathing in. And now, when we open our eyes, here we are looking at each other again, and maybe something has changed. Maybe there's a richness, a frisson, an aliveness, a presence. For me, I feel more present, grounded right now, and calm. So it's, what was that? 3 minutes, perhaps? Yeah.
Everything seems so much brighter. It's like my eyes have been cleared or cleaned or something. Yeah.
And you know, it was interesting because on Monday evening, it was quite lovely. We had yourself there taking part, and we had 2 people who were completely new to this kind of conscious breath work. And we had 2 people who had a little experience. One had a little more than the other. But we heard from them yesterday, and one of the comments, which was a real reminder to me, is almost like beginner's mind in yoga or in any practice. And her comment was around realizing how we shouldn't get complacent about something that we think we've become familiar with.
Yeah.
And that the simplicity of the breath, we can't be reminded of that enough times. And we're not reminded at an intellectual level, we're reminded because we actually go and experience the reality of that truth. So she reminded me and us not to be complacent of this breath that we have inside us.
Yeah.
And the simplicity of just a few minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I can also resonate with that, because I would see myself as very experienced in breath work and, you know, breath and movement and embodiment, but the way in which yourself and Michael teach it in a very simplistic, like beginner's mindset and embodied way, I was completely blown away by what you were sharing, but how you were sharing it as well, that it was super accessible for complete beginners and also experienced people as well. And not that I didn't expect to learn, but my expectations were blown out of the water in what I had received and come to know in the way in which you delivered it. So that was quite interesting.
And in a way, it's probably related to something Michael was doing when we were there that evening. Apart from guiding people to belly breathing, taking us out of that shallow breath in the upper chest, but many of us might want to breathe like that, and we might appreciate how the diaphragm becomes that belly breath, that deeper breath. But then Michael went on to share something that's a beautiful tool of this work in transformational breath. And rather than simply, like we've just sat for 3 minutes breathing, but we didn't actually inquire, how were we breathing? What was the quality of it? What was that reality? And we're not always conscious of it. And so Michael offered something in the workshop that he can now share in this podcast, how we can look at, how am I breathing? How effective? What's the quality?
So one of the unique tools of transformational breath is this breathing analysis, where we look at the breath pattern of a client or an individual who might come to see us or be in a workshop with us. And we all have individual breathing patterns. They're a bit like our fingerprint, and they are a picture in a way of our history. They tell us a little bit about how life is for this person, whether they breathe in their upper chest and are very open-hearted, perhaps looking after lots of others before themselves, or whether they're, very perhaps business orientated, super achievers, and breathing in their what would be known in Chinese medicine or Tai Chi, or I think even in yoga as the hara, or their solar plexus, the middle body, their power center. And then there's the people who've really nailed it, and they're breathing in their lower belly and very grounded. But then maybe their heart isn't as open as they would like it to be. So just by watching how somebody breathes, we can tell an awful lot. And then there can be pauses between breaths, and either before the inhale, which might be about a hesitation in moving forward in life, or a hesitation about receiving, or there might be a pause before the exhale, and maybe this person has a difficulty letting go, of relaxing and letting life take its course, or even just letting go of that need to control everything. So there is many aspects to the breathing pattern, and it's probably not appropriate to go into them all here now because we might run out of time.
Perhaps what we can say, the reason we look at the breathing pattern is like a fingerprint. We're not going to change it miraculously or immediately, because it is really, it's the story of our life and all the experiences that have taken us to where we are today. And so in a way, it shows our strength. But like all strengths, they can become diminishing in how we deal with situations. And so the full spectrum of maybe other qualities that we have that don't get expressed as much because we tend to be a certain way in the world, because it worked in the past when maybe we were challenged, or we didn't feel that we had the same permission or support or acknowledgement in other aspects of our personality, for example. So the reason we look at the breathing pattern as well comes back to where we started talking, which is about the diaphragm. So at a purely physiological level, whether you're into sports or singing or dance, movement, and your general well-being, the primary muscle system for breathing in the body, beautifully designed, is the diaphragm. And some of us are breathing with our shoulder muscles, we're breathing with our back muscles, and we're doing this because our diaphragm may be quite tight. It's a muscle, so muscles can have tension. And if the diaphragm is tight, it's harder for the body to get those breaths in. And so we find other ways. But actually we're using what we call secondary muscles. And the primary muscle, the one that's designed for the job, is kind of in an action that's suboptimal. So some people are told by their doctors when they do this breath spirometer that they're only breathing with 30 or 40% of their lung capacity. But there's nothing wrong with their lungs. So it's like any muscle we talk about, use it or lose it. So if you're not really using your diaphragm as effectively as you could, then it will work less efficiently, like any muscle in the body. So the breathing analysis helps us guide. Maybe you were aware of that in the breathing analysis. Michael guided the person to breathe more towards the belly, aware of the diaphragm. So we actually, in this work with a client, we use a little bit of hands-on pressure to find muscular tension. And as the muscles release, the breath and the diaphragm can expand. So we could put a hand on a shoulder and notice, oh, it moves when I inhale. Or we could put a hand on a belly to feel, yes, my breath is coming down into my belly. So we also breathe with people online. And what's wonderful now is the person becomes the facilitator and the breather. So when we talk about self-empowering, we're handing over the tool and saying, and you can do this for yourself. So for example, we had a breathing circle last night, and we had people who were quite familiar and are actually really good at finding their tendencies to have tension. And we had a person who had come for the very first time. And there she was, self-empowered, self-responsible with our guidance. It was really quite magical. Of course, we love getting our hands on people in real time, in person. So yeah, that's just a little bit about the power of this work, conscious connected breathing.
It has several therapeutic areas that we can have been identified as well, like for stress management, chronic fatigue, pain relief, asthma, addictive behavior, and other sleep disorders, heart conditions, depression,
anxiety, panic attacks.
Yeah.
Our breath is so connected to our resilience, our adaptability, our capacity to handle situations. So it's been with us since the moment we were born, and it'll be with us for the whole of our life. It's like our life companion.
It is, because without breath, there is no life.
Yeah.
So it is so intrinsic to actually our being at every level, from the physical through the mental, emotional, and the spiritual.
And it's in our vocabulary, a scene or a child singing or a sunset took my breath away, or it was breathtaking. So we connect our breath to our emotions, to our experiences, and we talk about inspiration. Some people call the inhale the inspiration, and we also talk about inspiration as a clarity and an idea. And in spiritus is the ancient wisdom of breath, is also our connection to the ultimate existence that we all connect to, the mystery of life, the life force, the prana, the chi. So breath has been in every culture. It's been in our, human experience for thousands of years. And in a way, what we're doing with transformational breath is we're just reigniting the awareness of something intrinsic, as Michael says. It's intrinsic to our being. And the wisdom of our body that can take 22,000 breaths a day and send oxygen to every cell of our body to remove the detoxification that's necessary for carbon dioxide to leave from all that cellular metabolism. So the breath connects on so many levels of our being. It's quite incredible. And if somebody's upset, even though none of us were breath workers growing up, or, you know, parenting or taking care of a friend who was upset, usually the first words out of our mouth are, take a breath, just breathe, just breathe.
Yeah.
Why do we know that? You know, it's quite special. But our breath and our breathing, perhaps from childhood, our breath was most open when we were born.
Yeah.
Before
babies.
Before life threw the curveball at us. So if you think of the average baby, toddler, child, they express their feelings in the moment they're experiencing them. They're spontaneous, they're full of joy, they've so much energy. You try following a child for a day and they beat you hands down on energy, vitality, joy, asking for what they need. How many of us do that throughout our day? How many of us feel that energized, spontaneous, expressing, connecting and expressing to our feelings, asking for what we need, just being that bubbling up personality that that child is, until conditioning, schooling, life, illness, tragedy, who knows? You know, we've all had our life's experiences, and the breath has restricted and opened and restricted and opened to help us cope with life, so that we could survive experiences. But we often survived them by parking some of the total experience. And so the contraction in the breath diminishes some of that pain, some of that discomfort. And if we do it often enough, then those muscles and that breathing pattern starts to develop and lock into the system. And the good news is we can just unwind, unwind, unwind. And one of the workshops is beautifully titled, Reclaim Your Breath.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a transformational breath kind of a standard workshop that you can do anywhere in the world, because this beautiful modality, it's in over 50 countries. The co-founder, Judith Kravitz, is an American woman. She's a mother of 8. She's a grandmother of about 18. She's well mature and travels the world offering training. So she is as vital as a 3-year-old.
Wow.
And so, you know, for us personally, our trainings have us traveling. And also if we run trainings here, people often travel. So there's something that connects us. The breath seems to connect us.
Yeah.
We could say so much more. So people will just have to get in touch or come to a workshop, or, you know, invite us to run a little event in person or online. I know we'll be back with you again, Katie.
So we can be contacted through Your Very Good Self, Katie, or directly at heartspace.ie.
And we will be in the Wellness Studio again on Monday, the 12th of August for a live event. So it's all good.
We're back.
We're back. I think we were just saying that we could say so much more. And so perhaps just to say that we are really available. We love to travel. We work in person. We work online. We're coming back to your Wellness Studio, Katie, on Monday, the 12th of August from 7:30 to 9. And we'll be doing this beautiful work again. And we'll be in Gorey on the 7th of September for a whole day. But what we would love to offer is also just to reach out. Tell us what you need in your community, with your people, with your peers, colleagues. You know, the breath is here to share and explore. And how can we empower you?
And we're doing a whole day with Katie as well.
Yes.
On the 8th of September.
Sunday, the 8th of September. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have a very breathalicious weekend in September.
And thank God, because the hour and a half is just teasing, absolutely just dipping the toe in, as you said. And something that I really hit home for me, what you and Michael were sharing on Monday, is breaking the habitual patterns, because we breathe 22,000 times a day and we take it for granted. And we just get into the same patterns and we don't try and change them and really embrace this life force energy that we have at our fingertips at every second. So when you connect with your breath, you can change your whole way of being in seconds just by using your breath.
And also to say how gentle,
Yeah.
safe, simple, contained. We're not really, our work is fundamentally about creating a safe space.
Absolutely.
Where you have no pressure on yourself. You have nothing to fix or change, as in there's nothing wrong. You know, life has happened. We are our story, and at the same time, we're not our story. So sometimes we can over-attach to our story and then miss this potential that's just sitting inside us waiting to be expanded. And for Michael and I think safety and containment is key. It's not about drama. It's not about catharsis. It's not about acting out. It's actually something much more internal and self-aware, and realizing what often happens in sessions when you go deeper with this work. You realize, I can feel something that I couldn't perhaps feel completely in the past. I can feel it from this resourced adult perspective and breathe with it. And as we do that, we resolve and remove and integrate the charge. You know, when you have a little kind of historical thing, and when you think about it, there's a charge there. So this work is empowering, because maybe that experience is holding you back in your life, but it's over, it happened, and you survived. So what you're actually being at the influence of is the memory and the unresolved, unintegrated charge that's around it. And so this work is liberating. We're liberating and freeing ourselves from all those incidents. And ironically, we all think that we've only suppressed pain, trouble, grief, sorrow, you know, disrespect, rejection. We've also suppressed, maybe I can sing. No, I can't. Maybe I can dance. Maybe I can write. Maybe I can paint. So we've also suppressed, maybe I have an amazing sense of humor, but as a child in the house I grew up in, it was not nourished. It wasn't appreciated. So in our unconscious, yes, there is memory, there's trauma, there's belief systems, conditioning, but there's also some really juicy golden nuggets of our personality. So the liberation isn't just, oh, you know, breath work, I have to sort out all my dark stuff. It's like, no, there's a lot of light in there as well. So that's what we've experienced personally in our lives.
And you know, we were facilitating and co-training in Denmark recently, and one woman turned around after her session and said she had never felt such pure love in her life.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection of the work that we do, that people will feel that kind of emotion, that kind of sense of just the purity of our spirits.
And that was inside her, and she came to meet it.
Yeah.
One-to-one with herself. So, and we have no prescription. Like we don't see a person and say, you need to breathe from A to B, B to C, and then this will be the result. What that person goes on is a personal, very intimate exploration, and we don't know what their liberation will bring for them. We're the facilitators, we're the guides, and as Michael says, we're this presence holding that safe container and holding that space.
And we have no agenda. No agenda, that which is so important. And it's like there's no judgment, there's no agenda. So as Claire says, we're there to facilitate, to hold the space. I know in the therapeutic world they say unconditional regard, you know, but actually, you know, there's love involved here.
Yeah.
Pure love. It's not a sexual love.
That on Monday. Yeah. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
On Monday.
Yeah, a gorgeous space that you held. So for anyone that is interested or feels curious, or that it's something that may support them, please come along on Monday the 12th of August, and a full day on September, Sunday the 8th. Yeah.
And Kate, say thank you to you.
You're
to anybody who's watching, continue to breathe. And as somebody who's clever with humor said, it's right under your nose. The answer is right under your nose. So let us all be grateful for the breath. And lovely to talk to you, Katie.
Thank you so much, Michael and Claire. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.